Hi there, smart drivers. We'll try that again. Hi there, smart drivers. Welcome to tonight's live stream, Smart Sunday number 26. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for 6 months already. Tonight we're talking about road trips and holiday driving with Easter weekend coming up. And I didn't realize, Don't Use Her Name just told me that it's President's Day in the United States this weekend. So between President's Day and the Olympics, I don't expect a lot of people to be turning out for for this live feed tonight. Generation 4, yes, it's 9 o'clock. You must be on the East Coast there, Generation 4. Where are you on the East Coast? Because I'm on the West Coast. Well, not on the West Coast. I'm in the interior of British Columbia, which is close to the West Coast. Don't Use Her Name. Just before we got started here, we were talking about the long weekend, and we were talking about President's Day in the United States. No, we don't have President's Day up here in Canada because we have a Prime Minister. So, thanks, Tommy. Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been 6 months already doing live streams. But I have to say that I'm much more impressed with my live streams than I was 6 months ago when I first started. The first one was a real disaster. Not enough internet speed, not enough computer, whatnot, and all that sort of thing. So Corey's told me that everything is working well, which is great. So tonight we're going to talk about, again, just to reiterate, road trips, holiday driving. We're going to give you 9 tips to do that successfully and do that well and make it less stressful for you, especially if you're traveling with children and whatnot. And as well, if you have any questions about getting a road test or passing a road test, your vehicle license, first license, or a CDL license, whether that's bus or truck, if you have any questions, I'll answer those as well and help you out with that. So Tommy's in Ontario. Yes, it's 9 o'clock in Ontario. When does it start? Jinx, it starts right now. Sebastian is in Brooklyn, New York, so lots of people here. Yeah, just if you're watching on the replay or you're watching now and you like what you see here, hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe button as well. Leave a comment down in the comment section there. I'll be able to answer your questions. Now, if I don't get back to you right away on the comments because I'm busy, I got a lot of other stuff going on, but I do try and get all of that stuff going for you. So leave a comment, just be patient with me, send me a reminder. I'll be more than happy to help you down, help you with the comments and get that stuff to you and whatnot. So Frank says they're having a meltdown in Michigan yet again. Well, Frank, we probably had 10 inches of snow here yesterday again, and we probably have more snow than I've ever seen here. They're saying that we have 130% more snowpack in the mountains than we have had in recent years. So they're really a bit concerned here in British Columbia about the melt in the spring. So yes, Tommy, Family Day in Ontario. Thanks so much, Tommy. Okay, Family Day, and the other thing about holidays here in British Columbia, I think it's in 2 years they're moving Family Day here in British Columbia to line up with the other family days in Alberta and whatnot. Whoever initially put that in place did not think about people traveling back and forth between between Alberta and British Columbia, because we're very close to Alberta, and lots of people traveling to Idaho and Washington State and Montana. All those states border here in British Columbia and Western Canada, so a lot of people travel down there as well. So because our family day is on a different day than everybody else's, somebody made a mistake there, so I'm wondering how that's going down. Lizuko is in Cape Town, South Africa, 4:03 a.m. Are you getting up in the morning here in Cape Town there, or are you going to bed? You're one of those night owls. I was reading something today on Facebook that said that people who stay up later tend to be more intelligent. So yeah, Riley's here. Riley's in Queens. That's really great. And Riley Owens has contributed a lot to the mastermind group over on Facebook, and look for that link down in the description there, and be sure to join the mastermind group over at Facebook. We've had some really great discussion and some interesting questions and comments about driving, and it's really helped a lot of people out, especially those working towards a license or people trying to get a job as a CDL driver, a bus or truck driver, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, so if anybody doesn't yes, it is. And Jericho Arroyo is here. Jericho Arroyo is Sam. His name's Sam. He works for Rookie Auto Driving School in the Bronx there in New York City. And Sam is really great. He contributes a lot. He has some really good information for any of you that are taking your license there in New York City. By all means, look up Sam there at Rookie Auto Driving School. And yes, thank you, Sam. It is getting big. It's just past the 40,000 mark. So we're hurtling towards 50,000. So 50,000 is kind of the benchmark for the next level of YouTube conferences that happen in May in Toronto. So I'm hoping to, I'm very much planning to go to the 50,000 conference there in Toronto in May. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be fun because that YouTube conference is 3 or 4 days, and it's really about building a business around your YouTube conference. So I'm excited about that. Lazuko, you're getting ready to go to work. Lazuko, what do you do for work there? Are you a driver down there in Cape Town? Raquel, how are you? Safisto. Yes, and this is a great place. You are most welcome, Sam. Okay, so without further ado, unless people have questions, I'll come back to the questions. I'm going to flip over to the PowerPoint presentation. I'll get this going for you here. Okay, so put that up there. That there. Just bear with me 1 sec here. Okay, just about got it. All right, so tonight we're talking about road trips and holiday driving. I did talk a little bit about this at Christmas. I realized, and I was looking at my live feed presentations, and I did talk about this a little bit earlier. But this is more generally with the, obviously with President's Day weekend there in the United States this weekend, but also Family Day, and we also have Easter coming up next month, and a lot of people will be traveling for Easter to visit family and those types of things because the Easter weekend, we have Good Friday and we have Easter weekend, and some people do get both those off, so they travel a lot because they get 4 days off during the weekend. So for those of you who haven't been here before who don't know me, my name is Rick August. I do have a PhD. I drove truck for most of the 1990s, on and off again. I became a licensed driving instructor in 1997 in a bid to try and get off the road and stop being an over-the-road truck driver. And I started out as a commercial driver, and then I just kept getting more tickets and more tickets. Not road speeding tickets, but more driving instructors tickets, and I finally got my driving instructor's license as well to teach new drivers to drive, and I've been a driving instructor for the better part of 20 years now. In the early part of 2000, I went back to university. I finished my undergraduate degree. I was accepted at the University of Melbourne in Australia, which is ranked about 15th in the world in terms of universities. It's a really good university. And I had the privilege of studying with Dr. David Phillips, who was a Rhodes Scholar, and he was from South Africa as well, and he taught there in Melbourne, Australia, and his specialty was in legal history, and I studied under him. And for those of you who don't know, legal history is the study of policing, courts, and prisons, and my expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. For the year prior to starting my doctorate degree, I drove a bus for Greyhound in Australia between Melbourne, Canberra, and Sydney, and I also drove up to Parkes, New South Wales, which is in the outback of New South Wales. It's probably about 300 miles, I think, due west of Sydney, Australia, and Parkes is the halfway point between Melbourne and Brisbane, and it used to be the run from Melbourne to Brisbane, so that was the halfway point. So you drive up to Parkes, stay overnight, and then the next morning get on the bus and bring it back to Melbourne. And for part-time, for some time while I was going to university, I also drove bus regional for the V line, which is the Victoria line, which is the bus that connects up the trains there in the state of Victoria in Australia. So this week I put up 2 videos. Both of them were CDL videos. The first one was looking at, it was a crash analysis video. It looked at a fatal bus crash in the Alps 5 years ago in 2013. A colleague of mine from the UK, Caroline, who's involved with the Road Haulage Association in the UK, and I'm learning lots about trucking in the UK, which is very interesting. And you know, different kinds of trucks. Most of them are cabovers. They're all what we call super singles here in North America, as opposed to duals. And she pointed out this crash to me and said that the brakes had failed, and everything in the newspaper said that yes, the brakes had failed, but everything that I looked at in that indicated that it was in fact brake fade. And for those of you driving passenger vehicles, I do suggest you look at this, because if you start operating with a trailer or driving a larger unit, you're driving a U-Haul or a rental truck, or you're towing a trailer, you can experience brake fade with hydraulic brakes in the mountains. So have a look at that and just be aware and know what brake fade is, because it could potentially save your life. On Saturday, I looked at 3 reasons why, if you're going to go to truck driving school, to consider getting your tractor trailer license. And just quickly, those 3 reasons were that most companies will only hire tractor trailer drivers even if they have straight trucks or dump trucks. They'll only hire class 1 drivers, so your return on investment is a lot higher. The second thing is that if the job that you are going to truck driving school doesn't work out in a couple of months, then after that you can simply get another job. It's really easy because you have a higher class license, and truck drivers are always in demand, and so you can go and get another job really quite easily. And then the last reason I said is that 85% of the stuff you're going to learn at truck driving school to get either a bus license or a straight truck license is all applicable to tractor trailer driver training. And the amount of money that you're going to spend to get your tractor trailer license is oftentimes only a couple of $1,000s more, and it's usually only going to be another week. So really, the return on investment, I really encourage you, if you can find the time, the energy, and the money to get your tractor trailer license, and that's what I talked about in that video. All right, so tip number 1 for holiday driving and road trips: do some vehicle prep on your vehicle. And if your vehicle hasn't had the oil changed in a while, take it to the mechanic and get them to change the oil, or change your own oil. There's a video here on the channel about oil changes, and it will show you how to do that. So have a look at this video, Winter Car Care. It is for winter, prepping your vehicle for winter, but it also will give you most of the information you need to prep your vehicle for a long trip. But essentially, check all the fluids, check your tire pressure, make sure that it's up to the required pressure. If you don't know what the tire pressure is, look either in the owner's manual or check with your local mechanic. They'll let you know that. Check and make sure that the wiper blades are good on it, because if it does rain or snow or whatnot and you need wiper blades, make sure they're good as well. Make sure the washer fluid is topped up, because if you get into, especially on the March long weekend, if you're driving in the mountains or some other place, you get into some goopy weather where it's slush and those types of things, you want to have your windshield washer topped up. So make sure you do some vehicle prep before you go. And the other thing that I suggest is, if you're going on a road trip, just to make it more comfortable for you, is to just take it down and clean it out and, vacuum it out and those types of things. I know here in Vernon, we have a car wash here that has free vacuums, and a lot of these car wash places now, that's kind of how they drag you into the car washes, that they give you free vacs. So it's pretty easy. You don't have to drag the vacuum cleaner out and those types of things. The second thing is navigation, and I have been meaning to get the navigation video done for you. I haven't got it done yet, but I plan very soon, within the next 2 weeks, to get that up. Have a look at Google Maps, get some help when you're driving to navigate, assign that to the passenger, get the kids involved, looking for landmarks and those types of things. And one of the things you want to do while you're navigating is you want to plan the brakes. Okay, where am I going to get fuel? Where am I going to stop? Where am I going to get a break? If you've got kids traveling with you, you want to stop at a playground and those types of things, so they can get some exercise and they can get the blood flowing and whatnot, because everybody needs a break every couple of hours. And now the other thing about navigation is it's going to sort of fend off you getting lost and those types of things. But if you are driving and you do get lost while you're driving, you don't know where you're going, you haven't been here to the relatives before, or they moved or whatnot, stop the vehicle. Do not try and figure out how to get back to where you want to go. I know that our GPS and those types of things are going to reroute us. However, stop, look at the GPS, look at the map, look at your directions again, and then get yourself turned around and get back to where you need to go if you do get lost. So don't try and figure that out while you're driving the vehicle. So that's tip number 2. And tip number 3 is, before you take off, make sure you have activities, particularly for the children, things for them to do and those types of things. And the number 1 activity that I advocate on long road trips is audiobooks. I'm not a big fan of video players for kids and cars. I'm a big fan of audiobooks and other types of games that you can do, I Spy and all those types of things. The other great thing about audiobooks is, if you go to the library, you can get audiobooks that are accompanied with the books for the kids. So you can put the CD into the radio and have them listen to it, and then they can turn the pages in the book and they can read the book while they're going along. So that's one really great activity. As well, in terms of preparation for the road trip, make sure that you have accessibility to items in the vehicle. So food and drinks and medication and those types of things. Make sure they're not stuck way in the back somewhere where you have to climb over, you have to stop, and it's kind of frustrating because you can't get the stuff or it's not accessible and those types of things. So maybe what you might want to do is have one big cooler and then maybe have a smaller cooler or some small Ziploc bags and those types of things, and everything's nice and organized. That way it's just easy to grab and easy to get a hold of while you're driving down the road, and that way it's going to reduce distracted driving while you're driving. And this ties into number 4 in terms of preparation of food and drink in the vehicle. Have roles assigned to different people there, and I'll move the picture there for you. Assign roles, the passenger in the front, whether that's mom or dad or whoever, you know, uncle, aunt, friends who are in the front, they're assigned to navigating and reading the directions because you took the time before you got going to write all it out. And the children are looking for landmarks, or they're looking for road signs, older children, if they can read and those types of things. And then everybody has a role in it, and everybody's involved in getting the thing you safely to your destination, whatnot, on your road trips and those types of things. And as well, have blankets and pillows in the vehicle because the kids are going to sleep or the passenger's going to sleep. Obviously, we don't want the driver sleeping on the road trip, so we're going to have blankets and pillows in the vehicle. And sorry, just goofing around with the thing here. So, and finally, the other thing is prescription medication. Know its side effects. If you do have to take medication while you're driving, know what the side effects are of that medication. If it's going to make you sleepy and those types of things, make sure that you have somebody else who can spot you and drive and those types of things. Because the number one reason for being inebriated or not fit to drive is prescription medication and over-the-counter medication. So know that when you're driving. All right. Okay, cruise control. If you're driving on highways and those types of things, definitely have a look at this video. If you're not comfortable with cruise control, figure out how to use cruise control and use it out on the highway and those types of things, because it does reduce distracted driving and it will keep you more alert while you're driving because you're not monitoring your speed all the time. And one other point I'll make about cruise control is lots of people I have been with over the years have said, yes, I use cruise control and whatnot. But then when they go to pass somebody on the freeway, they turn off cruise control and step on the throttle. Well, that negates the point of cruise control. Usually if you can just get out in the other lane and just go past them. On a freeway or a multi-lane highway, it's not imperative that you pass at a very high rate of speed, so you can just leave it on cruise control. You don't have to turn it off and on all the time. All right, and if you're driving over the holidays at night, know this saying: drowsy drivers rest in pieces. Okay, so if you are tired, don't try and push through when you're driving at night. Know that we all have what's called circadian rhythm, which is essentially a biological clock. Our bodies are predisposed to go to sleep between 1 and 5 in the morning. So if you're driving during those hours, know that you are going to be tired. The other thing that is difficult about driving at night is that our perception to see is reduced by half at night. As one of the smart drivers said here on the channel, they said when they're driving at night, it's like driving on the planet Mars. And it really is, because you really have to rely on all of the road markings, all of the signs, and other information to try and figure out where the road goes at night, and that is difficult for some people. So if you're tired, stop and get some sleep. And as well, Corey will probably get the video up here for you on night driving. Have a look at that as well for some more information if you're going to be driving at night. And just one other tip that I'll give you: if you are tired and you have to drive at night and you need to push through, if you eat, it will keep you awake. And one of the things that I used to do when I was driving truck and I was driving a lot at night was I used to have a 5-pound bag of carrots down beside the seat, and I would eat carrots. I would eat carrots or rice cakes, and that's basically what I ate to try and keep myself awake while I was driving. As well, talking to somebody else will also help you to stay awake. And one of the things that I used to do when I used to drive truck is I used to talk to other drivers on the CB radio, and that helped as well. So if you do have to stay awake and you need to push through, those are a couple of techniques that you can use while you're driving. Number 7 is to plan your breaks. Make sure you have a break every couple of hours. And as I said previously, in terms of navigating and traveling with children and traveling with your family, is plan your breaks so that the kids can get exercise, stop at a playground. As well, when you're getting organized to go on your trip, try and have a picnic lunch for them and lots of healthy snacks and foods and those types of things. If you go to restaurants or you eat at Burger King or A&W or Chubby Chicken or wherever you're going to go and have your snack, just know that these restaurants, Kentucky Fried Chicken and McDonald's, these are going to be really heavy foods that are going to make you drowsy while you're driving. So just pay attention to that. It's better to sort of snack for a while on carrots and rice cakes and other healthy foods that aren't going to make you feel bloated and kind of weighted down, because all of that stuff is going to make you fatigued, and it's just tough to keep awake. But as I said, have lots of activities, get some fresh air in the vehicle, get out, get a bit of exercise every couple of hours. And you'll also note that the reason we say every couple of hours, if you drive out every couple of hours on a multi-lane highway, you'll always notice that there's those cement barriers down the center of the road. The reason for that is because people tend to fall asleep after 2 hours of driving. So make sure you get your breaks after a couple of hours of driving. No, not that slide. Number 8. There we go. Comfort and clothing. Yes. We've all seen the vehicle like this. When I had young children, my vehicle looked like this when we went on the road trip during holidays to visit family. When you get in the vehicle, take off your bulky clothes, take off your jackets and those types of things, because you're going to get in the vehicle and within 5 or 10 minutes the vehicle is going to be heated up, it's going to be warm, you're going to be comfortable. If you've got big winter jackets on and snow pants and those types of things, it's not going to be comfortable in the vehicle for long trips. So take all that stuff off and just sit in the vehicle with just your shirt on and your pants. And I know what people are going to say. No, wear clothes while you're driving. And have emergency clothes in the vehicle. So if you're traveling through mountainous areas, or it's going to be Easter, you're still going to potentially get snowstorms and those types of things, have emergency clothes in the vehicle. Have your back supports and those types of things. If you have lower back pain, they do have back supports in the vehicles and lumbar supports and the whatnot. And again, accessibility to water and drinks and food and that sort of thing in the vehicle. Have all of that readily available. And as well, if you're taking off your jackets and whatnot in the car, make sure that you have a survival kit in the car. And I'll talk about this in the next slide, because that ties into the last point on number 9, which is emergency stops and breakdowns. Okay, if your vehicle breaks down or you have to have an emergency stop, I implore you, do not stop on the side of a freeway. It is incredibly dangerous to stop on the freeway unless it is an absolute emergency and your vehicle has broken down. Then only then stop on the side of the freeway. If you can, limp the vehicle up to an off-ramp, and don't stop on the off-ramp. Drive over to the on-ramp and stop on the on-ramp, because vehicles are traveling a lot slower there and they may or may not see you, okay? Again, I just reiterate, I cannot stress enough, do not stop on the side of a highway, do not stop on the side of the freeway. I mean, even if one of the kids got their diaper off and there's poop everywhere in the back, that is not an emergency for you to be on the side of the road, because I'll tell you right now, a lot of people have died because they pulled over on the side of the freeway. So don't do that, okay? Have a cell phone in your vehicle and have a charging cord in your vehicle. And if you don't have a charging cord for your cell phone, go and buy one. That way your cell phone is going to be charged. You're not going to be with like this mom here in the picture who's got 2 kids and can't phone somebody because your cell phone's not charged. So get an extra cord in your vehicle and charging phone. And again, don't touch your cell phone while you're driving, because that's just distracted driving and that's dangerous, okay? So that's imperative. And as well, if you're not mechanically inclined, you can't change a tire, you can't sort of figure out what's wrong with the vehicle and those types of things, you might want to consider having the Automobile Association, your local Automobile Association. They all have roadside assistance. I think it's less than $100 a year. You can have roadside assistance. You can get your vehicle towed. They'll come out and change tires and those types of things, and it is a really good plan, and I do encourage you to do that, okay? And finally, if you're traveling in the winter in rural areas and whatnot, have a survival kit, because especially here in British Columbia and other mountainous places like Oregon and Washington State, and in Virginia, West Virginia, which some of you may or may not know is called the Mountain State, and it's called the Mountain State for a reason. You're either going uphill or downhill in that state. There's a lot of places there that you will not get cell phone reception, mobile reception on your phone. So make sure you have a survival kit in your vehicle, and if you get stuck in a snowstorm in the off chance during the holidays here on President's Day weekend or Easter weekend, don't leave your vehicle. Don't try and walk someplace, okay? It's safer to stay in your vehicle and wait for people to come and find you. So that's the last tip for traveling on holiday weekends and traveling on a road trip and those types of things. So good luck on your road test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. All right, so we'll just get it back over here and we'll answer any questions that people have. There we go, and we'll get back to the comments. So Corey has got those videos up for you. That's great. Oh, okay, don't use her name. No, not the on-ramp. What I'm saying is Don't stop on the on-ramp. You're absolutely right. Don't use your name. What I say is pull off on the on-ramp, go up and go over to the on-ramp onto the freeway. I mean, if there's another place that's better, if you can get off the off-ramp and then turn onto a highway or something, then yes, absolutely. But if you're kind of stuck for places... Thanks, Corey. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, so yeah, and don't use your name, that's right. If you're stuck and you can't go someplace else, but it's kind of an emergency, you got to get the vehicle stopped, that's the best place to stop. But if you can go someplace to a service station, or you can pull into a restaurant or a parking lot or something like that, then yes, that is definitely a much better place to pull over. Okay. All right, so Corey's got all that up there. Dawn, how are you, Dawn? Jinx, that's great. Generation 4, what's the 50,000 conference? The 50,000 YouTube conference. They have them around in different places in the world for YouTube creators, and basically they teach you how to run your YouTube channel as a business. So that's what I'm hoping to go to in May. Last year I went to the one in Toronto, and I think May I had 10,000 subscribers for my birthday in May last year, and it's always good for me to go to Ontario because my folks live there, so I can visit them. Okay, so okay, don't use your name. If you can, please make a tutorial on traffic calming. Don't use your name. Just can you send me the video on traffic calming? The Bentley crash in the UK. Can you find that for me on the Bentley crash in the UK? Because I'd be interested in that. I was also, don't use her name, in what I was talking to Caroline the other day about was the M25, which is the ring road around London in the UK. She was talking about that they have outsourced the post-crash cleanup on the M25. And from my understanding of what she was telling me, that these contractors have bid a certain amount of time that it takes them to clean up a crash on the M25. And if they don't clean it up within that amount of time, then they start to incur penalties. And these penalties are $1,000, 1,000 pounds a minute, not $1,000, 1,000 pounds. So, which is quite expensive. And so I was very interested in that. And one of the things that they're working on is the environmental cleanup. So the fluids that come out of the vehicles, diesel fuel and motor oil and radiator fluid and these types of things. And they have some sort of absorbent that's environmentally friendly that they're now working on selling to use to clean up. Because one of the other things that takes a lot of time in post-crash cleanup is cleaning up the environmental mess and cleaning up all of these fluids. So she was working on that, and I was interested in what she had to say about that. So I might actually get in touch with her and talk to her about that video. All about vehicles. How are you, my friend? Okay. Okay, Jinx. Yes, I do have a video on here on what to do in crashes. And one of the points that I found on one of the other videos here on the YouTube channel that was an excellent point, because myself personally, touch wood, I haven't been involved in a crash, but one of the points that I will give you that is really good is that after you get into a crash, you're in a bit of shock. So make sure before you get out of the vehicle, because a lot of people's first instinct is to get out of the vehicle and they don't secure the vehicle. So make sure that the vehicle is secured, because a lot of people get out of the vehicle and the vehicle rolls away and has another crash somewhere. So make sure that before you get out of the vehicle, if you have a crash, that the vehicle is secured. That's the first thing to do. Okay, excellent. Thanks so much, Don't Use Your Name. I'll have a look at that. So the other thing about crashes I'll talk about is that first thing you have to do is you have to secure the scene, because you don't want to be a wreck on a wreck. You want to make sure that other traffic isn't going to run into you and cause more damage and more mayhem, okay? So make sure you secure the scene. You get somebody out there that's going to direct traffic or those types of things, and you're going to put up triangles and those types of things. Don't put up flares, because of, you know, fuel is flammable and we don't want to cause a fire and whatnot. So don't put up flares, but direct traffic around and whatnot. If you got flashlights, everybody's got cell phones. You can use the flashlight on your cell phone to direct and warn other traffic and whatnot. And then finally attend to other people. Don't even worry about calling 911 or calling 000 in Australia or whatever the emergency number is wherever you are in the world and those types of things. Because by the time you get on the cell phone, 12 people have already phoned emergency services. So don't even worry about that. After you make sure... Corey just left me something here about the comments. I'm not sure what's going on here. Are the comments working, Corey? Okay, so... And then finally, you got to do triage. You got to figure out who... Oh. There we go. Sorry, Corey. Thanks. Okay. And then the other thing you got to do is you got to attend to the victims. You got to figure out who needs help, and you got to do that sort of thing. So it's the ABCs. It's airways, breathing, and circulation. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that there isn't anything lodged in their breathing passages in their nose or in their mouth. Okay, the comments just came back up. They should be back up now. And then you want to get them breathing. So if you have to have mouth to mouth in terms of first aid, and then finally you have to attend to any bleeding or wounds or those types of things. Okay, so that's what you need to do in terms of administering first aid and whatnot. And by the time you start, you go around and you figure out if there's 1 or 2 people and if they need triage or they need some sort of first aid attention. By that time, the emergency crews are going to arrive in the event of a crash. So that's what happens in the event of a crash. The other thing I really encourage you to do is to go and take a first aid course. If you haven't taken a first aid course already, take a first aid course. Have a small first aid kit in your vehicle. And in terms of the survival kit, you can have some of that medication and bandages and other stuff in your vehicle and whatnot, okay? Okay, Generation 4. If you have to stop on the freeway, what should you do? Should you leave your vehicle? Generation 4, if you have a cell phone and you can call somebody, please do not leave your vehicle. And if you do have to leave your vehicle for whatever reason, go around to the passenger side. Do not stand on that driver's side of the vehicle. And actually what I would encourage you to do is actually go out the passenger's door and stand on the passenger side of the vehicle, because people on freeways and highways, I don't know what it is, but they are not paying attention. All right? So I cannot stress to you how dangerous it is to be on the side of a highway or freeway when your vehicle is broken down. If you can get cell phone help, then that is the best thing to do, is to just call somebody and talk to them on your cell phone. Christian, thank you so much for that. Jinx, you're most welcome. Okay, Mac is Air. What do you do if there is heavy rain in which you cannot see more than 2 or 3 meters? Mac is Air, if you cannot see more than 2 or 3 meters, I do really recommend that you get off the road somewhere and try and sit it out for a minute, because heavy rain like that is not going to last for a long period of time. It's only going to last for a short period of time. So just get off the road, wait it out, and you know, reduce your speed and take your time and make sure that you have your lights on if it's raining that hard, okay? All about vehicles. My dad, who has been in a really bad crash, has told me to make sure that you are okay after the crash, and if you are okay, to go and help others if they are involved. Yes, that's great. And yes, all about vehicles, that's a really good point, is to make sure that you're okay before you can go and help other people, because if you're not okay, it's pretty tough for you to go and help other people. And I'll tell you an interesting story. It doesn't involve car crashes, but it does involve a story of a person that I met some years ago and talked to him, and he was big into ice climbing. Him and his partner were ice climbing, and the ice bank collapsed off the side of the hill, or the mountain rather, and they fell, and his partner was knocked unconscious, and the emergency crews came and took them both to the hospital, and he was helping his friend and those types of things and whatnot. And then they said, well, maybe we should just check you out and whatnot, and they did an X-ray on him, and they said, you need to stay laid down right now, because once they did the X-ray, they realized that he had broken his back, but he was still walking around trying to help his friend and whatnot. So that is a really excellent point, that makes sure that you're okay. Simon, my degree, I have a doctorate in legal history. And legal history, as I mentioned before, is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. And my degree, my doctorate degree, looked at the transition between horse-drawn traffic and motor traffic, sort of between the 40-year period between 1890 and 1930. And what happened in that period is that average road speeds went from 6 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. And so there was a 500% increase in road speeds. And it's the same thing as saying today that in 2060, we'll all be driving around at cities at 250 kilometers an hour, which is approximately 140 miles an hour, which is absolutely absurd. I mean, most of us would say, well, that's completely crazy. That's not going to happen. So that's what happened at the beginning of the 20th century. And then I looked at that increased road speed and its impact on policing and law, and how policing and law tried to change to uphold order maintenance, which is most of what police do in terms of public safety. Okay. Okay, Generation 4. Don't you have to write a long report? Yes. Generation 4. My degree, my dissertation was 80,000 words. It's essentially a book. So, and if you're ever interested, you could drop me an email and I can send you the link for that. It's actually on the University of Melbourne's library site. It's in a repository there. So, Christian, do you have any tips for driving near large vehicles? Yes, I do. Essentially, what you need to do, Christian, in terms of driving near large trucks and buses and whatnot, just hold your lane and get past them. Don't hang out beside them because they've got large blind areas around them. So get past them as quickly as possible and then just carry on with your life. But don't hang out in there beside them there, okay? Just carry on. Generation 4. How long did it take to write my dissertation? It took me 4 years to get that from start to finish, to get it done. Okay. All about vehicles. My uncle who lifts his truck, he also upgrades his headlights and taillights and fog lights to LEDs. LEDs are much brighter than your typical halogen. Yes, LEDs and halogen lights are much better. If you're doing a lot of night driving, we would really recommend you installing those in your vehicle. Don't use your name. Unless you drove in Germany. Why wouldn't you use a dash cam in Germany? Don't use your name. Yes, dash cams are really good, and I just run mine all the time in the vehicle now. Okay, Simon, what do you think of the government building new roads without dedicated right turn lanes? Okay, Simon, I'm not a big fan of that. I think that they should have dedicated dedicated turn lanes, so it makes it much safer. Keenan, there you go. Thank you. Yes, I think they should have dedicated turn lanes. It makes the flow of traffic. It maintains the flow of traffic and it makes the roadways safer. Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Don't use your name. Thanks for that. For telling me that. Okay. No, he got it, Keenan. He just deleted it. So, and I was deleting it as well. So, it just took a moment to clue into that what had happened. We got it deleted. Okay, Generation 4, I recommend that if you're driving a passenger vehicle that you take a break every couple of hours when you're driving. And the other thing is that when you're planning your trip and you're navigating, or rather your route planning is planning the trip and then navigating is actually executing the route plan. Plan those breaks where you're going to take the breaks. What restaurants, what parks, what tourist attractions are you going to stop at? I know for me, when I go to the Vancouver Island, it's a 5-hour drive. I always stop in Hope, British Columbia, where the original Rambo was filmed, and it's right on the Fraser River. It's really beautiful. There's a playground there. There's some nice coffee shops there, so that's where I stopped and whatnot. So when you're doing your route planning, that's something that you can do, is plan where you're going to stop and what kinds of tourist attractions you can go to, and interesting places you can stop and see, and those types of things. All right. Keenan, you didn't see it. Okay, so that's good. So Germany has strict privacy laws and no dash cams. I wonder how long they're going to be able to hold that off without having dash cams, because everybody has dash cams. And they're so widely available and they're so accessible for drivers now. And so many drivers are using them for purposes of insurance and crashes and security and whatnot. That's an interesting point. And the other interesting thing is that many of these countries and jurisdictions can put laws in place, but the question always becomes, how do they police that? I mean, how do they know that they don't have a dash cam in your vehicle? Because the the cameras are so small that it's difficult to police that. I mean, unless it's like some sort of radar that's going to emit some sort of signal or something that they can monitor, then how do they do that? Okay, Riley, you're gonna drive in LA. Well, you're gonna find LA a lot easier than New York City, because LA is a city that grew up with the motor vehicle, so you're going to find that fairly easy driving there. Generation 4, how do I make my thumbnails? I make my thumbnails with GIMP. I did try some of the other free, there's one other very famous site here, and I'll have to look it up for you. I did try it for a little while. I didn't really like it. And then, eventually it was just an evolution. Over a period of time, I figured out how to use GIMP, and I figured out how to put images together, and I just started using GIMP. And I was fortunate, because when I first started, the colors that I chose to brand my channel were good colors. My blacks, my blues, and my reds. They work well, so and they help for my thumbnails to stand out. And the other thing that I do that's really important, and I got this from somebody else who was doing videos on how to do thumbnails, is that when I do a thumbnail, I shrink it down to 12% to the size that it's going to be on my cell phone, and I also look at it on my cell phone. If I can't read the text when it's small, then I don't put it up, and I try and figure out how to get the text so that it can be seen when the thumbnail is really small, because that's important as well. Simon, okay, Simon, if you're driving a tractor trailer, if it's a 2-lane multi-lane, you want to be in the right lane. If it's 3 lanes, you want to be in the center lane, because most of the traffic in the right lane is turning, so you want to stay in that center lane in a tractor trailer. You can't be in that far left lane. It's called, in trucking, it's called the big dollar lane. And the reason it's called the big dollar lane is because if you get pulled over by authorities, you'll get a fine for being in that 3rd lane. So don't drive in that 3rd lane in a tractor trailer. Generation 4, you are most welcome. Okay, Sam, dash cams. Yep, I've had one for probably 4 years now, so I use it all the time. Yes, and since I've had mine, Sam, I just let it run in my vehicle all the time now. So, and for me, it's really good because it generates a lot of B-roll for my videos and whatnot. So, yeah, I really like it, and it's easy to use. It just, as soon as I turn the vehicle on, it just starts up automatically. So I really like having my dash cam. Okay. Sebastian, I knew better than right turning vehicles have right of way and got the intersection and made a quick left turn when the right turning vehicle was about 8 seconds away. Well, Sebastian, you're going to go to hell for that. That's all there is to it. It's just, you're just going to go to traffic hell. Sebastian, that's fine. As long as there was no altercation and you were, away from the other vehicle, it's all going to be good. Okay, so I was joking to Sebastian there because Sebastian said he kind of charged a left turn before a right turning vehicle when the right turning vehicle has the right of way. So, but it's all good. Okay, as long as there's no altercation and there's no crash. We say in trucking, an inch is as good as a mile. So that's all that matters. Okay. Generation 4. My apologies, Generation 4. What was your video suggestion? Just remind me. I'm sorry, I can't find it now really quick. Or somebody else can just type that up for me. Okay, Lana. Atlanta's in New Jersey. Could you please make a video about communication between the drivers? Another question. What is the procedure when police stops? Thank you. Okay, so Lana, have you seen the video here on the channel about being pulled over? One of the things being pulled over, as I said, try and pull over in a safe place. If you can, don't pull over on the side of the freeway or highway. Try and drive to a parking lot or someplace, get off the freeway, and that makes it safer for the police who are pulling you over. Second thing is don't deny what you did. If you were speeding, don't say to the police officer, I wasn't speeding, because then you're pretty much guaranteed. Always yes sir, no sir, your license and insurance and those types of things, and be polite. It doesn't take any time out of your day to be polite. And police are going to have a fair bit of discretion, and it's more likely if you're polite with them, you know, in 75% of the cases you're just going to get a warning. You're not actually going to get a ticket. I mean, unless you're doing something really dramatic, then yes, but okay, Generation 4, I left you a comment today that I was working on that. I'm trying to get a spokesperson from the police department to talk to me and do an interview with me about that, because I have done a video here on the channel about pulled over by police. So I'm still working on that. Police, for whatever reason, especially the RCMP, are somewhat reluctant to talk to me. I need to establish authority and establish a relationship. So I am working on that. I'm just not going to get it up right away. It's going to take me a couple of weeks, okay? Okay, Riley, I'm thinking about getting a dash cam because of my experience. Many people cut me off without signaling. Yeah. There we go. But as I said, Generation 4, just keeping that in mind, if you can pull off into a parking lot or pull off somewhere else, then by all means try and get off someplace safe, okay? But like I said, I want to try and interview a police officer or a spokesperson for the police department that can give me some more information. Actually, you can hear it directly from the people who are going to be pulling you over. Keenan, I've seen a lot of road rage. So he's talking about Ontario in terms of the 400 series highways. 2 motorcyclists, but really it affects everyone around them. Yes, that is definitely true, Keenan, in terms of people who are involved in road rage and whatnot. It does affect a lot of drivers on the roadway, and it endangers people. I have seen it on the 401 there, which is the main east-west freeway through Ontario, and at 110 kilometers an hour, which is 70 miles an hour, I've seen people cut other vehicles off, and it is incredibly dangerous. And what I suggest to you, if you have an altercation with somebody else, just let them drive off and go and have their crash somewhere else. Do not engage with somebody else, okay? So I just can't stress that enough, because you will get, you know, you're going to endanger yourself, you're going to endanger somebody else, and for a couple of minutes, it isn't worth it, all right? Okay, Tommy, how do you signal to the police that I am looking for a safe place to pull over so that they think taking off and starting a chase? Tommy, one of the things you need to do is just drive the speed limit. If you're driving the speed limit, they know that you're not going to be pulling over, that sort of thing. So, for example, one of the things that I did a few years ago was I got pulled over on the bridge coming out of Kelowna. I'd just been to martial arts training, and I was a bit ramped up, and I was going across the bridge in Kelowna, and I was the only one on the bridge. Well, there's no place to pull over on the bridge, so I went all the way. So the police officer turned his lights on right at this side of the bridge, and it's probably a 2 or 3 kilometer bridge, and I went all the way across the bridge and then pulled off on the ramp. And they are appreciative of that. I mean, if they start getting excited, and oftentimes they'll just leave their lights on. If they want you to pull over immediately, they'll put their siren on. If they put their siren on, then you might want to start looking for a place to pull over and actually stop. But most of the time, if you're just driving somewhere, they'll just follow you until you get there, and they're going to be more appreciative because it's safer for them to pull over. I mean, unless you're driving, you know, you're in a 50 mile an hour zone and you're doing 80 to look for someplace safe, then they're going to think it's a chase. Okay. VP, what is the best planning the route for trucking using navigation or maps? Okay, so VP, that's a great question. You want to use both navigation and Google Maps. And what I suggest to you in the beginning, make sure that you consult at least 2 sources. Get 2 different sources of information for where you're going to go. Because when you get lost in a tractor trailer, and believe me from personal experience, you know, especially if you get into some of those eastern states, into Delaware and New Jersey and places like that, it's not necessarily, if you're going down the interstate, you can't necessarily get off the interstate and go over the bridge, over the overpass, and come back and get on the freeway and come back up the road. That doesn't happen. So it's important when you're route planning and you're navigating that you use a couple of sources. And if you're in the least bit doubt in terms of Google Maps and your Garmin Navigator, your GPS or whatnot, call the place that you're going to go to and ask them for directions. For example, call where you're going to deliver the freight and ask to speak to shipping and get directions, and then go back and check it again against Google Maps to make sure that you know where you're going. And now the other piece about that VP is that when you're going out of the place and you're going back to the freeway or you're going back to the interstate, ask the people at shipping, how do I get back to the freeway? How do I get back to the interstate? And then go back into your truck or whatnot, get your phone out and look at your phone and make sure that those directions that you got from the shipper coincide with what they told you. It's kind of like what I say, you need at least 2 or 3 sources of information to make sure that you navigate correctly, because you get lost in a tractor trailer, and let me tell you, it can be a real challenge to get your vehicle back to where you need to go. Okay? Okay, Keenan. Well, that kind of depends on money. Right now, you know, with starting the business and those types of things, the Honda is a tough vehicle, and you know, it's got 300,000 kilometers on it. I mean, I do have a couple of things that I need to do to it. I need to put a new exhaust on, a new windshield in, and do just a little bit of body work on it. But it's a good vehicle, and you know, I think that in terms of vehicles, a lot of vehicles you're going to get 10 plus years out of them anymore, and I don't think you know, you can drive them in the ground. It just sort of depends on who you are, whether you get tired of driving the vehicle or not. But you can get some good life out of a vehicle now, especially if you maintain it. It's going to treat you well. So, okay. Dylan, you're the best instructor. Your videos helped me pass my road test. That's awesome. I'm so glad that you got your license and we could help you out. Aditya. Yes, Aditya, yes, it is good. And but have a look at the video here on passing on the channel. Maybe Corey will get that for you. Because a lot of these 2-lane roads are going to have passing lanes every so often. And if you can wait 5 minutes and get to one of the passing lanes and then pass, know that. And as well, I've got some dash cam video on the weekend. I was coming down from the ski hill and somebody got out in front of us, and of course it was snowing and the roads were snow covered, but this person was driving like 40 kilometers an hour, which is like 25 miles an hour down from the ski hill, which was, I deemed it a bit dangerous, and I ended up passing because I just didn't want to drive all the way back to Vernon. So Generation 4, yes, sometimes I watch it, but for the most part I like to think that people are doing the best they can on the roadway with what they've got. So okay, Sebastian, can't use Google Maps when driving. There's a pop-up that says it can wait. It's sort of frustrating. Okay, Sebastian, if you're doing, Sebastian, what I suggest to you is if you are doing a lot of driving, to get a data plan for your smartphone, because those maps on your smartphones, I mean, they have audio on them to tell you when to turn and those types of things, and they are really great. And I do really recommend that you use the map on your phone, because it really helps out a lot. Okay, Generation 4. Okay, I'll check that out. And Keenan, what I think is that, you know, there's no reason you can't drive a vehicle till it's done. I mean, and there's lots of vehicles out there that'll do it. I mean, that Honda, I'm not under any illusion that that vehicle will get 500,000 kilometers on it. I think it's a personal preference. Vehicles are going to last a long time now, so you know, if you want to drive it until it stops working, then that's your personal preference. But I think a lot of us are just going to get, you know, our lives are going to change and we're going to want a different vehicle. I know for me, there's an X3 BMW for sale. It's been for sale for a few months in my neighborhood here, and every time I walk past it with my kids on the way to school, I covet that vehicle. It's got a 6-speed transmission in it, and it's a really nice looking vehicle. And I mean, you know, I've had the Honda for 3 years now, and you know, I'd be nice to drive a BMW X3. So there you go. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, Keenan, one of those things, if you're driving a truck with a lift kit and those types of things in it, yes, it's going to, it's hard on it. So 100,000 K, if he's getting rid of it and it's got a lift kit and those types of things, yeah, that's probably a good mileage to get rid of it. Especially if it's a domestic vehicle like a Ford, a Dodge, or a Chevy. Yeah, I would get rid of it. Yeah, and Generation 4, there are some people who have older cars and they just really like them. I mean, my personal preference when money isn't an issue for me, what I would like is to have a vehicle that has a brand new motor in it on a frame, and then just go and get a kit car and put the body onto it and then just drive it. It's got a standard transmission in it with a electronic fuel injection and those types of things. So yeah, really good. Yeah, don't username. People are going to be impatient, but as long as you don't hang out there in the left-hand lane and you just take your time and pass the other vehicle, it's also safer for you to just do that. You don't need to have your foot down to the pedal, to the floor, and kicking on it to get past the other vehicles. You're going to be fine. Just let those other people wait. They're going to wait for you because they're not going to crash into you. So, all right, so we're nearing up the hour here, and I think the questions are waning, so I think we'll leave it there for this evening. If anybody has any further comments, by all means leave me a comment down in the comment section. Always happy to help you out. If you're watching on the replay, by all means hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment down in the comment section there. If you have any questions at all to pass your road test, I'm more than happy to help you out. Don't use her name. I think I'm camping in the passing lane and sometimes tailgater flash me. Yeah. What I say is just go on and carry on about your life. Generation 4, not a problem. My pleasure at all. Happy President's Day for those of you in the States. For those of you in the East having Family Day, happy Family Day. Spend some time with your family. All the best. And for those of you who have passed a road test in the last week, congratulations on that. Really great study and really great work on getting your license and moving on and getting that freedom. As well, for those of you coming up for road test week this week, good luck in your road test. All the best with that. And Macazair, what I recommend is sort of, if you can get 4 to 6 weeks is ideal for prep for a road test, is what I recommend, okay? And as much driving time as you can in different vehicles and those types of things. So thank you, everybody, and good luck in your road test. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.
Okay.